Hello, welcome back to another Mr. Maker Flip Classroom special. Today we are going to be learning about pre-Columbian civilizations, and specifically for this video we're going to learn about the Mayans. In class you were given a worksheet that looks like this. It's going to replicate the notes that we're going to go over, fill in the blanks as we go through the notes. Feel free to pause, rewind, fast forward, or mute me whenever you like. In the meantime, let's get started. So the reason we call them pre-Columbian is pretty simple. It's in the Americas and it was before Christopher Columbus, aka pre-Columbian. Here's an example of some pre-Columbian architecture, just to get your mind right and know what we're looking for. Now, section 1, the rise of the Maya. Mesoamerica is a region extending from central Mexico into northern Central America, including parts of Central America like Guatemala. This is what it looks like on the map. The Mayans were known to settle in this place. It was the birthplace of the advanced civilization known as the Maya or the Mayans. They're synonymous and both of them are correct. The Maya homeland contained both highlands and lowlands. And what I mean by that is for the highlands, we're describing areas like mountains. They were cool and mountainous, and some of these mountains were volcanic, and the ash from eruptions made the soil fertile and rich so they could grow a lot of crops. The lowlands, however, were hot, flat, and covered mostly with rainforest. Because the soil of the rainforest was thin and fragile, the Maya developed a farming method called slash-and-burn agriculture. First, the farmers cleared the land by cutting down plants and trees, like you see the guy doing in this picture. Then they burned these little stumps and remaining pieces into ash, and that ash provides fertilizer for the soil. Now, there's a big mystery surrounding the Maya or the Mayans, where a lot of their research and a lot of their historical evidence that they kept was lost for centuries. However, in 1839, two British explorers, one John L. Stevens and the other Frederick Catherwood, began a search for the ancient hidden ruins of the ancient civilization in Mesoamerica that they'd heard rumors about. Prior to this, there were nothing more than rumors for the ancient Mayans in terms of their evidence for civilization. After a while, they did uncover ancient sites long buried underneath the jungle growth. Now right here what you see is a pyramid of social structure of the Maya, which we're going to discuss in just a second. Now Maya culture was around for over 3,000 years, but the classic period of the Maya, meaning the height of their civilization and the height of their power, began around 250 AD and lasted until 900 AD. By 1000 AD, Maya civilization was already collapsing. Most historians believe that a combination of natural disasters, including drought, may have led to food shortages, warfare, and disease, resulting in the collapse. Section 2, Maya society. Now here's that pyramid I was showing you before. At the top, what you'll see is an image of the gods, which were representative in the kings. Down here you'll see the priests. Right here you'll see the nobles. Right here you're going to see the merchants. And at the very bottom of this hierarchy are the slaves. More on that in just a second. The Maya developed a complex class structure made up of nobles and commoners ruled by god kings. First, we have the nobles, which included the higher nobles, the king, the top officials, and the priests, and the lower nobles, including soldiers, scribes, which are writers, artisans, artists, and merchants. And the commoners, we had a lower class, which is mostly peasant farmers and unskilled workers. Now, the expectation in Maya culture was that the men would work the fields, hunt, fish, and maintain the village buildings, while women raised the children, tended livestock and gardens, wove and made pottery. The basic social unit of the Maya was the extended family, which is the grouping of several families that live together. Now imagine living in a really, really big house with maybe 15 bedrooms or even something a little bit smaller, but having to share it not just with mom, dad, and your two sisters, but having to share it with a whole other family as well. This was really, really common with the Maya, and that's what we're referring to when we talk about the extended family. What they did is they lived in a village on a noble's land. They live in a cluster of simple houses, and right in the center, as you see in the image, is a central patio where they would gather for different feasts and celebrations together. On days of major ceremonies, Maya commoners came into the city. There, they traded, used shell beads, red beans, and feathers as currency. They might even attend a ball game, similar in parts to volleyball, soccer, and basketball. What they would do is they would take a big rubber ball, and they would only be allowed to use their shoulders, elbows, hips, knees, and feet, and they would have to hit it from one end to another in the shape of this big canoe while people watched, and they would have to get into these hoops that were up on the sides of each of those walls. The losing team, unfortunately, would be killed. The game was really dangerous, but it was also considered a sacred ritual, and the winning team was thought to have won because they had the favor of the gods. Each major Mayan city had its own king. Cities competed for land, power, and control of trade routes. Although the Maya never built true empires, some did create spheres of influence, which are areas that are strongly influenced by one particular ruler. So another way to think of this is a huge area of land where there are many multiple cities. Instead of having one president who ruled everything, we had multiple cities, but they kind of followed the lead of the most powerful in order to stay in favor, so they'd have military protection as well as economic assistance. Maya kings often formed alliances with other kings to increase their power. Alliances are agreements between people to achieve a common goal. The Maya were a deeply religious people who worshipped many gods. As you guys know, this means they were polytheistic, and most of these gods represented nature. Kings were believed to be descendant from the gods and were expected to communicate with them through sacred rituals. Descendant from the gods means that they were related. The Maya believed that the gods needed sacrifices of human blood. Some of the most important rituals involved the spilling of blood, or bloodletting. This shedding of blood was so crucial to Maya rituals because of its association with rain and agriculture. According to Maya priests, the gods had shed their blood to water the earth and nourish crops, and they expected human beings to honor them by imitating their sacrifice. By spilling human blood, the Maya hoped to please the gods and ensure that life-giving waters would bring bountiful harvests to their fields. One of the blood rituals was human sacrifice, which the Maya believed helped balance the universe. Human sacrifice among the Maya, however, was not a really common practice. Festivals were also really important to Maya society. Their many festivals featured elaborate costumes, music, rituals, dancing, plays, and storytelling. These festivals played an important role in the social, cultural, and religious life of the Maya. Section 3. Maya Achievements. The Maya developed the most advanced writing system found in the Americas. Maya writing was based on hieroglyphics, or hieroglyphs, or even glyphs, or symbols which would stand for words, ideas, sounds, or even in some cases letters. Mayas carved hieroglyphics out of stone and painted them on the walls and on pottery, as you can see here. They also wrote them in a bark paper book or booklet called a codex. That's what it would look like on the bark paper. Probably only scribes and elite of nobles were able to read the hieroglyphs. An elite is a group of highly privileged or skilled people, and most of the paper writings have been lost, but the stone-carved writing still remains. These mostly celebrate the elements of Maya civilization, kind of like a story about heroes or a story about historical events that have happened throughout their history. The Maya were also brilliant astronomers, meaning they studied the stars. They plotted the position of the sun, the moon, and planets and could predict events such as solar and lunar eclipses, all without a telescope. With this knowledge, Maya astronomers and mathematicians developed accurate calendars in order to plan agricultural activities based on seasonal changes. Maya mathematicians also created an advanced number system and understood the concept of zero long before Europeans did. Prior to this, math was very, very basic, and as you guys know from doing math yourselves in your own studies, that without the concept of a zero or a function of a number that means no actual value, it's really hard to figure out any math. This is an example of some of the symbols that they used for different numbers. In the field of art, the Maya were best known for their beautiful architecture. Maya cities were designed around central areas where pyramids, temples, and palaces were located. These buildings are made of large stone blocks, and the most impressive part is they're all built without the benefit of wheeled vehicles to move the blocks or without work animals. Instead, the Maya relied on human labor to haul and lift the stone. Since they did not have metal tools, they had to rely on stone tools to cut and shape the stone blocks. One of the most impressive feats in Maya architecture were pyramids that they would build. The pyramids all had temples on the top where sacred rituals or sacrifices would be held. They were decorated with sculptures, bright paint, and murals. Artists created fine pottery and made jewelry and masks from jade and pearls. This is perhaps the most striking form right here, called a stela. A stela is a carved stone pillar or slab created to celebrate an event or a person, but always the glory of the Maya civilization. So, for example, you may have a stela built with all of these intricate designs to celebrate a huge battle victory. By 1000 AD, however, Maya civilization was collapsing. Most historians believe that a combination of natural disasters, especially drought, food shortages, warfare, and disease brought about this collapse. And that's it for this section. We'll be back with part 2, the Inca.